guest here.
We have a very esteemed guest.
I'm just wondering if I get to say anything.
You have to jump in, Kathleen.
Well, I was going to about the weekend.
You got to be pushy in this
Well,
crowd.
good. Share with us your weekend.
Wait, before we start
my
that,
goodness.
I gotta listen. Leslie,
I'm trying.
Someone get a muzzle.
we have to introduce our guest. She allegedly retired.
Allegedly.
Well, I retired from a particular job.
I know.
I
but
did not retire from life.
No, you allegedly retired from working. I don't think you retired from. I don't think you ever will retire.
No, and I was never really working.
Because she loved it.
I mean, I loved it so much. The only part that could be work is showing up at a particular time every day, writing reports and grading papers.
Yes.
But the act of being in the classroom, I have 56 years of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready to give it up. So I've already been back in the classroom twice. I've been at assisted living places twice. I'm getting ready to go to Fredericksburg. I have created a workshop that'll be at the Butt Holdsworth Library the last Saturday of April, May, and June.
Nice.
10 o'clock in the morning. They're going to provide some coffee and
Delightful.
donuts, and then I'll start the workshop, and it's available for everyone. So that was definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
For my computer transcription, we're talking to Dr. Kathleen Hudson.
Thank you.
There we go. Musician, expert, musical expert, author, English teacher, literature professor. I mean, you
Renaissance
name it.
woman.
Renaissance woman. And she has a new book. Here it is right now. This is it, right? Shaman's Heart. Is that what we're looking at? Or is
Shaman's
Heart.
Heart. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
And what is this book about?
This is so exciting. The lead author, Stephanie Urbina Jones, is a musician, and she's in 2 of my books, but she also leads healing retreats to Mexico, and she has her own nonprofit, Freedom Folk.
I clicked on something, so let me get out of this.
You followed a link.
I followed a link.
It says now available.
Yeah,
I mean,
now
that's
available.
where you can get it on Amazon.
Okay,
This is where you can buy the
you
book.
can buy the book.
And so the book is an anthology of a group of people who went with Stephanie to Peru. And they did Machu Picchu and they did some healing ceremony. I was not able to go at the time. I was not able to make that kind of walk. But she invited me to participate. So my chapter 19, is on the healing power of stories and songs. And that fits right in with my 3 oral histories. As you know, those are collections of stories. So I shifted my focus and how do we heal? And I just am recovering. They're my 3
There's
books.
the other books,
Thank
right?
you.
Yes.
And then my little book of poetry I put together with a group of students.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
Do you speak Spanish?
I play around with it.
Yeah.
My Corazón Abierto, I interviewed Mexican-American voices in Texas music. But I am popping down to San Miguel de Allende this month. I have a place there, and I've been going since 1988. So I'm going down to, reconnect there. And that was part of my healing journey. You want me to go ahead and tell the story now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right.
Well, the story quickly, I mean, I know we all have our time, but in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and they said it was triple negative, which had kind of a negative feel to it.
Yeah, you're like, that's a bummer.
I said, what's that? And it turns out that it's a type that's considered, more aggressive, and they have to, anyway, I had a great doctor, and within 2 weeks, I was in surgery, but I had to make a decision about the rest of the healing. And I have a lot of friends in alternative medicine, and I had to decide about chemo. And I had an excellent doctor who looked at me and said, we have found a cancer cell in your lymph nodes, 1. And she really felt that chemo was the answer. So I went to a Bob Dylan concert, and I kind of thought about it. I went to Mexico. There was a Mexican chocolate healing ceremony up on a hill.
I'll sign up for
How
that.
do I sign up for
I'm ready for
that?
that one.
Yes. I did it. I went up there and I stood in a circle and beat the drum and drank the chocolate. And then there was a shaman over in the corner, and I went over and let him pray over me. And then I came back and did chemo. And all the time I was teaching.
Kathleen, you were a badass. I swear to God, you are a badass.
So badass. So with that combination and going to school every day and teaching, writing and literature.
And staying yeah.
And
You stayed
so
engaged.
here I am with this, bottle of blood under my arm after the surgery and a big shirt and, kind of pretending. But I did write about that in my chapter because I realized later that was part of my healing. Yeah. Sharing the stories and sharing the songs. And Dylan has a song that's way too long for me to read now. It's all right, Ma, I'm only bleeding. But it's got a line in it. He not busy being born, is busy dying. And that's almost become my mantra.
Yeah.
And, we don't retire and sit in a chair and die. Now, I turn 80 this year.
What?
Can I be invited to your party?
Yeah.
I think we all need to go to this chocolate ceremony.
I
in
want to go to the chocolate ceremony, and I want to go to a birthday party.
This is a selling point. I will be signing up for that.
Well, I used to take groups to San Miguel. Maybe it's time for me to be a leader again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I just, in November 13th, I had a surgery that was to prevent me from being paralyzed. It was a prevention surgery, but the doctor said that's what I needed. Mm-hmm. And I came out of it with 7 levels fused.
Oh my gosh.
Neck to back. So I've been recovering from that. And this next month, I'm popping down to San Miguel. And then, next week.
There's no slowing you down.
Next week, I'm going to Tulsa. Bob Dylan is kicking off his spring tour. He's 83. Thank you.
My gosh.
Wow.
Rough and Rowdy Ways. And he's kicking it off. Guess where? Tulsa. We're the home of the Bob Dylan Center, which he's never visited. But anyway, I'll be in Tulsa for a week next week, and then in April, San Miguel. And in May, I've been invited to spend 2.5 weeks at a friend's house in Santa Fe.
Nice.
So I do need
You are
someone.
busy, girl.
I do need someone who wants a retreat to the country, free of charge,
To water your
in
plants and feed
exchange
your
for
cats.
3 small dogs and 3 cats.
Oh my God. 3 small dogs.
But
We can find somebody.
Well, I'm looking for somebody like in Austin. Somebody
Yeah.
wants to get away from the city. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't leave
For like a
beautiful
staycation.
Kerrville to go to
Right.
Mountain Home.
Right.
You said
that
3
depends.
weeks?
Yeah.
Or
Come on.
3 weeks?
2.5 weeks.
Oh, bummer. If it was like 3 days, I think I could swing that.
Did you?
know.
I need a retreat from from
Send
my
some
life.
dates. I think I might know some people. I can help you.
Yeah, thank
we can,
you.
We can figure this out.
It's all around our topic this morning, the chapter in my new book, and that is the power of stories and songs and healing.
Yeah.
And we hear a story from our doctor, by the way. My dad, a World War II vet and doctor, he told me one time, he said, I can have a patient come in with a spot on their arm.
Mm-hmm.
I can touch it and say, what is that spot doing? And the next time they come in, he said the spot will often be larger
Oh wow.
because he brought attention to it
Yeah.
as a
Right.
doctor.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't do the powerful thing and say, hey, that spot's going to go away.
Yeah.
But again, back to my experience in Mexico, and I know I'm going in April, and I know there's some issues about Americans traveling, so I'll certainly look it up. But my plan right now is to hop on a Mexican airline, Viva Aerobus,
Yeah.
and hop down to Leon and go to San Miguel.
The I've been meaning to ask you this. What was your impression of the movie?
I was thinking that same thing.
Yeah.
That she's talking about
Yeah.
Bob
Well-
Dylan.
With Timothy Chalamet, what was your reaction to that movie? You got
Well-
She's wearing the Bob
No,
Dylan shirt.
I'm wearing Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
but-
the
Yeah,
Bob
looks like
Dylan.
Timothy.
Yeah.
Come on. So I,
It was, and to be fair, it was only a small part of his.
yeah,
Life. They
61 to 65.
Yeah, that was it.
And of course, I was at TCU from 63 to 67.
Yeah.
And I heard Peter, Paul, and Mary at our homecoming play Blowing in the Wind. And
Yeah.
I said, who wrote that? I mean, that was my introduction to
Right.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
So I saw it 4 times.
Really?
I bought it. You know, it's streaming now. You can buy it.
Right.
Because every time I saw something different, I felt something different. And of course, I always told my students, if they came to my class, well, I've already read Antigone. I said, yeah, but you haven't looked at it this way.
Right.
And so I have 4 different perspectives. I noticed different things. One time I noticed the microphones. Just couldn't help but see the shiny mics in front of everyone. But I loved all the interviews with the director and with Chalamet and how he just embodied Dylan, but he didn't imitate him.
No.
There was a little bit of difference in that word imitation and interpretation.
Yeah.
And Chalamet had a little bit of himself and his story in there. It was so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about when you have movies that are like based on historical stuff. You can have imitation or you can have interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that I've not seen the movie yet. It's on my list of things to watch.
Please
so,
put it on your list.
Yeah.
I have to have a showing at my house.
Yes, you should. You should
I'm
have
out
like
to Mountain Home.
Yeah, you know what? We should
My
have
3-room cabin.
That would be a good. That would be a good event. We could have a showing of the with a discussion about it, because I'm sure there's other people that would discuss it with you.
That's a really great idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a night.
That's one of the things that I do miss about teaching, because anything I did the next day was interpreted in the classroom.
Yeah.
I mean, that was how big my umbrella was, whether it's the creative process.
You know, it would be
or
cool if you did that. I feel like Justin Graham would love this, and he streamed it on the water tower. He streams things on the water tower at Zanzibar or at Central Provisions, and then like you could do a screening of it and then a discussion with you outside. Have you been to Central Provisions?
I certainly have.
I feel like that'd be perfect for this conversation.
Yeah.
Justin Graham, if you are watching,
something else
calling you out.
creative to put together. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you miss the classroom though?
Yes.
Do you miss the
miss
students?
I miss the students. I see them. I've taught 56 years and 39 were at Schreiner.
Yeah, did Schreiner just say, "Look, you gotta take some time off"? Did they encourage you to retire, or were they mad at you for retiring?
No.
What was the deal?
And nothing.
Yeah. They're like, okay, see you
Kathleen
later.
was one of my professors at Schreiner.
Right.
Well, the reason it was a very quick decision made within 24 hours.
Really?
So they didn't really have a long time to process it.
Yeah.
I did get a nice thank you at the last faculty meeting.
Yeah.
But the day before, I was teaching mythology, and I was talking to the head of the English department, and the discussion went to AI. And I teach composition. And I suddenly realized that I was going to be jumping on a new learning curve. I didn't want to be a detective to figure out AI in the papers I was reading.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, in that 24 hours, so I went in the last day of class, and I had my mythology class, and there were like 18 of them. And I said, well, this is my last day to teach. And they looked at me, and I said, please go in my office and take anything you want.
Oh, wow.
And of course, they had talked about objects, and one girl had talked about Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi, and I had a broken piece of cup in there. They all walked out with something, and one girl had about 15 books, and she looked at me and she said, is this okay? I said, you do know that book on romantic literature was mine in college. She said, oh, yes, I want to see all your comments.
That would be great.
I have some heartfelt stories.
That's really beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Wow.
I took that mythology class. It was a great class.
Wasn't it
Yeah.
fun?
Yeah, it was. And I think one of my favorite things that you had us do is we went to the Museum of Western Art.
Yeah.
And you had us pick out a piece of art. And then we had to write a story of what it was. Like, what was it, what spoke to us. And then we wrote like our own mythology on the piece. And I picked a statue. I picked a bronze.
Yeah.
But I remember that being the one that was like my first time in the Museum of Western Art ever as a college kid. And then it was one of those like really, it got me outside of my comfort zone in a lot of ways. So that was a really influential class for me at Schreiner as just like a kid from Uvalde that was going to college. So I would say it was pivotal for me. I look back at it now realizing that as an older adult.
Well, Thank you. And you're pointing to the world of neuroscience right now, which says that the human brain, David Eagleman says this, is the greatest storyteller of all. And so this narrative quality, we all share stories, whether it's with our family. We very seldom walk around and share our laundry list. It's all narrative. And I love the fact that science is now behind this. I mean, I think at one time at Schreiner, there might have been a few raised eyebrows over in the science building when I had my students in a circle around a tree, all of them telling a story about what they saw, because they were in a different perspective.
Yeah, right.
So the power of stories is the chapter in my, it's not my book. Stephanie Urbina Jones and her husband Jeremy are the lead authors, but I'm so pleased to have chapter 19.
That's awesome.
And KathleenHudson.net.
Does Stephanie Urbina Jones, does she live here in the area?
No,
Where does she live?
she was raised in Fredericksburg.
Okay.
But the music foundation that I used to be the director of, which now I'm on the advisory board, but the Texas Heritage Music Foundation, oh my goodness. We've showcased her at coffee houses. I personally have brought her in the classroom. I mean, this woman is a powerful storyteller and healer.
One of the things I always think about too is your reaction. So on our walls here, we have lots of musicians, obviously.
You do.
And is there anybody here that you really want to see again? Who you got people behind you too? We've got some. We have Robert O'Keefe, Ray Wiley Hubbard, Lyle Lovett is on the wall now too.
I did see Lyle at the Arcadia.
What do you think of his show?
Well, I loved it. It was intimate, and I was sitting up in the balcony.
And he was funny.
And he was just comfortable. And I saw Robert Earl there Christmas. And these are 2 chapters in my very first book, which came out in 2001.
Right.
And the title, Telling Stories, Writing Songs. So watching these people that I interviewed back in the 80s, which, of course, it all, for me, went back to the Kerrville Folk Festival.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean, that's where I met them and became friends, and took Townes Van Zandt home to Austin after one festival, and he invited me in, and I was interviewing him. He said, "You need to meet Blaze Foley." So I interviewed Blaze the next day, and I just hung out there at this house Townes had, and his dog had eaten a hole through the door.
Oh, geez.
His wife had left him, and he was sitting on the floor, and he opened his refrigerator, and he put an onion and a piece of lettuce on a piece of a paper plate, and he said, "This is all I have to offer you." And so,
oh my gosh,
little onion and he was just coming back from the folk festival.
Great
he
story.
didn't expect a full
It's a
refrigerator.
great story.
Right.
But
exactly.
it was horrible. There was a hole chewed through the back door.
The dog had gotten through.
And then I got to meet Blaze the next day, and I wish I could find that photo.
Oh my gosh.
Of because that movie Blaze.
Yeah.
I mean, Ethan Hawke did a great job. Speaking of people.
Right.
But.
All right, hold that thought for a second, okay? Because we got to pivot.
Thanks.
We got to pivot that.